Hello, welcome one and all. Welcome to my stream. I am Paladin Ashe here to stream for you again, and today we're getting into it with Foundation, which, funnily enough, I originally intended to stream this back when I first started streaming, actually. I put that on my docket, but then I started playing it and was like, oh, I guess I'll not stream it now. And let's see how streaming a game that's very low-key will go. Yeah, I've no idea how well received this will be and how enjoyable this will be for me to stream. Especially because I tend to need to enjoy the things that I'm showing off. But yeah, that is what we're gonna be playing today. And I think I'm going to start a new game. It's been a while since I touched Bionia. Select rules. Custom. Select mods. Are those even functional anymore? Actually, yeah, one sec. Let me just double check that. Oh, these are really just basic. I don't even think they exist anymore. Let's see. But take a piece of wood, plain sand, and the more chance that you will make it work. The more you do to it from then on, the more chance that you will make it worse. Increases output by 1, adds the worker capacity by 1. I'll install that. New. Let's come up with what I want it to be. I tend to like coastal more. That's not bad. Now that's what I want to see. Bit of meander, a little bit of space across the way to grow into. Okay, custom, select mods. This might clash with that. Yeah, I don't care about achievements. Let's go with build a belfry. I always end up doing a little bit of everything. Actually, if that's the case, relax and play at my own pace. Okay, that fish looks like it's deep throating something. It's even got like the curves that get put along like a dude's face when he's got a dick in his mouth in like a drawing. I thought that was going to be one of those like really gnarly looking like old timey dogs instead of the lame ass lamb. I don't really go along with the wrong with the fleur-de-lis, even if it is basically, you know, French's symbol, France. Hills and sea with nothing but forest. Kritzfield. That's not a bad name. Let's name him after the most like cool ass gay dude ever. Emperor Hadrian. Okay, so where should I start? I believe there was like an island, and that is probably not where I want to build. That's not a bad place. Let's go with here. Oh wait, no. I have to build up to fuck. Let's go with let's go with here. I forget. There you are. This usually becomes like the center of civilization, so let's go with that. It's been a while since I played this game, so I've got 10 people. And if memory serves, forestry. Okay, yeah, I want that. And I definitely want... Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I'm putting down too much shit. How much money I got? Okay, I've got plenty of money. Right. Before I go any further. I'm telling it to do a whole lot, but honestly. Okay. Where was it? if I find myself enjoying streaming something like this, I might actually bring myself to stream Farthest Frontier. That's a much more, I guess you could jokingly call that the Dark Souls of, you know, of fucking colony sims. In this game, if people don't like your village, they just leave. In Farthest Frontier, if things are not going for you well for you, they just die. And you basically, your opening moves in your first year will determine whether you can get past into the second year. Like, if you do not build the necessary shit, like a fucking wood chopper, then nobody has firewood, and everybody fucking freezes. It's actively hilarious. All right. I need one of you. That I can accept. That's right, bitch. Grow some trees. Not a bad spot. A little bit of iron and a little bit of stone. Do. Build faster. Build faster. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's right. Yeah, you get to work. You get to work selling those berries. You get to work getting those berries out there into the fields. What fields? I don't know. I'm just saying random shit in a weird tone. What do you mean your workplace is 21 minutes from your home? It's right there. The audacity of these bitches. Okay, this book's good quality. Yeah, sorry, just checking the thing off my desk. I acquired an old Reader's Digest book on the guide to needlework. I was told it was good. And it's a fucking dense ass book. Also a rare case where the fucking hard copy is Lord or Lady. Oh yeah, I'm changing that right now. Where is it? How do I change that? How do I change that? Don't give me titles and then be like, you can't. There we are. Lord. "82 minutes from her home." Yeah, bullshit. Wait, where's that well? That's the granary. That's the well. Okay. These bitches always have the whiniest complaints. 82 minutes from my home. No, it is not from your home. Shut up, bitch. Shut up. Oh, you. You know what? Fine. There. Why are you still bringing those there? You don't work there anymore, Sweet Pea. You don't work there anymore, Sweet Pea. Stop working there. Gazelle. For now. One of the neat things about this setting or this game is, as you can see, there isn't really a road setting for this game. Like, you don't set down roads, not like, say, in like SimCity or what have you. And typically in games like this, you would put down roads. Roads would be like a feature of how to like improve traffic through a region. In this game, an organic aspect of it is the desire path. That said, I have seen some like gratuitous amounts of metagamed, tech for this game out of the Reddit subreddit for this game. One thing I cannot abide by is when people are like, okay, now you know that feature of the game that's really convenient? Well, it's inefficient. So the most efficient way is to do annoying thing. Annoying thing in this case would be to not paint a big wide open space where people can just build houses. No, it would be to essentially make small little squares beside each other. It's like, you are aware that that's ugly as sin, right? Where people will come from, because people don't fucking bump uglies in this one. Not like other colony sims. No, you get new colonists from outside. They just immigrate. It's all immigration based. One more stone and I can get the granary up and running. I'm gonna rob from Peter to pay Paul with the construction people. Hey, Chonka. Not a lot. Just chilling, building my colony. building it before somebody can come along and be like, colony sims are racist. Anyways, hey, Warden Wolf. I got a new headset, had to retire the old one. Damn, but it was about time. That one was older than you. It was around since the dinosaurs. I mean, no joke. In, I think, Civ 6? Or was it Civ 5? I tend to prefer to play the British Empire on like very oceanic maps because their ships went further, or went further faster. And that generally allowed me to expand my empire to like, you know, more distances. That said, I don't play many 4X games because I find I have to reboot my saves so often because the AI decides to be massively gay. Like, incorrigibly, unforgivably gay. I remember this one time in Civ, I was like expanding my nation, and then another nation started throwing a bitch fit at me for expanding too quickly. And it turned out that they didn't even start on the island that I was on. They had expanded onto my island and were now upset because I was in their vicinity, where I had always fucking been. And that's not even counting the worst Stellaris map I ever experienced, which I outright started using cheats on because of how fucking obnoxious it was. So here I am, just starting the game. I've just gained the ability to expand and colonize and terraform planets. So early on in the game. And I expand next door. It turns out there's an ancient empire right beside me, like literally right beside me, and they get upset. And I'm like, okay, I'll recede a bit. But they're still upset because they are right beside me. And I cannot fix that. So they promptly attack me and conquer me. And not even like a year later in game, they're like, we're going to annex you now. And I'm like, so in other words, I'm just going to lose the game in like a little bit of time. So I reload to the beginning of the map and like proceed to set myself to basically invulnerable and jam out as large of a fucking army as I fucking well can. And or a naval a naval response. And after a little bit of them attacking my navy, they start losing. And I fucking conquer them back and essentially take all of their land, because ancient empires are never terribly large. They're a very small pocket of space because they've, had their denouement and receded significantly. But you have no idea what conquering one of those fuckers means, because you basically get all the technology in the game. I went from the start of the game to basically maxed out in every way and was like, okay, let's shit slap everybody else now. It's funny too, because I'm never really a terribly aggressive player. I mostly just expand space and manage my fucking colonies and do a little bit of everything. I never really seem to be very good at specialization. I just do a little bit of everything, and that still bothers people. Bo has played Stellaris and has enjoyed it. He's not terribly into 4X games, but if you slap a a naval warfare and space aspect onto it, he'll generally play it just fine. I'm not sure if he'd stream Stellaris because he tends to be picky about it. With me and Stellaris, every time I go back to it, I literally will be like, how do I play this game? Plays plays the tutorial a bit, and then I'm like, okay, now I remember, and then like goes from there. I don't mind doing a refresher. I'm more of an Age of Empires person. That's pretty based. I grew up on Age of Empires, like Age of Empires 1, Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 3. I used to be the type of person who would like, I'm 36, of course I'm Unk. Like, y'all are 12, meanwhile I'm basically middle-aged. When y'all were rising out of the primordial muck that is a deep dish pizza, I was already an established individual. I wish they would make a World War I Age of Empires. Just call it Age of Empires Final Clash, bro. Hey, yay. When am I going to get some new people? One day. Okay. One day. Real talk, I've always been kind of fond of, like, it was basic, but it was still a neat idea. The actual, like, scenario behind Age of Empires 3. I have Cities Skylines 1. I've never played it. It's funny, it's like I bought it, but I've never played it. But since I grew up on Sim City games, you know, that is definitely my jam. And I mean, it's not like Sim City's getting a new actual entry. Though I don't think, City Skylines is getting any continuations anytime soon, considering what a travesty City Skylines 2 was. I mean, I've never played Total War. And not any of the Warhammer Total War games either. I only clarify that because I'm pretty sure I've heard of Total War as being like just like a general like war sim game. But I don't think I've ever played them. I might have played one. I remember a friend back in like elementary school showing me some war sim game that involved in its tutorial setting up like a plane to patrol an area to watch the space. The problem with any 4X or war sim game in this day and age is that they always have like a million fucking like DLCs, so buying them is always like I gotta wait for a sale and then I gotta chip away at it, or bite the bullet and spend $100 out of what would be like 2,000. I saw a comic somewhere of all the Fate strategist characters playing Total War. I should have saved it. That seems like something they would do, considering fucking Iskander was playing video games like while he was like hanging with Waver. And fucking Waver's favorite cozy time shirt is the same, is a screen print of the game that Iskander was into. Yeah, I keep meaning to actually pick up Total War. Oda Nobunaga versus Iskander playing a game of Age of Empires. Just had a boar beside the street on my home and deers or foxes can sadly happen pretty often. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. That reminds me of that time a fucking black bear and came into my backyard in my previous home. Just to be clear, I was in the middle of the city and somehow a black bear came into human occupied areas and was in my backyard. And to add like further insult, my mom had just gotten a new dog. His name is Wally. So I just want to clarify that I'm using present, tenses here. He's still alive, but he's a little wiener dog, a Dachshund. And yeah, he met that black bear and got swatted in the face. He was just a puppy at the time. Now, here's the thing about black bears, because I don't know if Euros know anything about them. They're little bitches. Like, of all the bears you can run into, they are pussies. Because like a brown bear might attack you, a grizzly bear may more likely attack you and eat you, a polar bear absolutely will attack you and eat you. A black bear, I'd say majority of the time, they fuck right off when you freak out. Where are my people coming from? My peeps. Where are my peeps? Where are my peeps? Where are they coming from? I've been waiting long enough. I have not enough people. In my area of Canada, there are like 3 things you might want to watch out for. Well, maybe 4, because we do get wolves, we do get pumas, and we do get bears. And we absolutely get Canadian geese. As a city goer, you're more likely to run into the latter. And that's not necessarily a fun thing because Canadian geese are fucking bitches. Lovely plumage, but they can fuck right off. I have to wonder how long you're going to continue to have wolves, considering there's that one lady with the EU who started trying to bring back wolf culling because one of her fucking horses got attacked by one. Truth be told, I always feel a little bad about the wolves because, like, yeah, wolves will attack, like, people sometimes if they're hungry. But in general, they don't really fuck with human civilization. So, like, hunting them to extinction is usually oh, the farmers are upset that their sheep are getting hunted. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's how it goes. That's nature. They're a necessary predator. But then again, England's very settled, so... I don't know, but that's me being indoctrinated by like decades worth of, hunting wolves to extinction in areas like Yellowstone just because it upsets a mommy and her child to see a doe get eaten. It's not a good idea. Yeah, that's fair. The UK isn't exactly massive. And as it stands, I imagine natural pasture land that is like untamed and has the sort of things a wolf would eat is not exactly super prominent. Where are my immigrants at? The fuck? Yeah, here in North America, it's like a much more, shall we say, questionable thing when people start talking about hunting wolves just because they're a nuisance species. Like, because I mean, there's like a wide open spaces for them to be, and in a lot of cases, they're a necessary predator for other pest species. Like, we get a lot of deer in my area. Wait, the UK's got a venomous snake? Oh! That certainly explains the comedian's name. I feel like in that case, it's a case of, yeah, sure, they exist and somebody dies from them once per year. But if I'm guessing right, the vast majority only really die because they're idiots about it. Like, how venomous are we talking? It kind of reminds me of how in Appalachia in the US, there is a prominence of snake handling churches. But that's when you get into like really weird Protestantism. Not that North America lacks for those. Yeah, that makes sense. That would also explain why like the lethality is that high. A child's going to be more susceptible to a bite than an adult. Actually, that makes me wonder. One sec. Black adder. Okay. I know that they're a comedian, but I'm gonna have to look them. They're venomous. While a bite is serious and requires medical attention, it is rarely fatal. They are shy and generally bite only if threatened or stepped on. Okay. Let's look at the actual Wikipedia. What kind of bite are we talking? Let's see. Toxicology, toxicology, toxicology. relatively common, domestic. There in Sweden, there are about 1,300 bites per year, with an estimated 12% of cases requiring hospitalization. At least 8 different antivenoms are available against bites from this species. Relatively low compared to that of other vipers.
I just Uber eated some Five Guys, burger and fries. I'm not $30,000 in debt.
I mean, no joke. Five Guys is tasty, but damn, is it expensive. I'm kind of blessed to be not close enough to one to order from one. But I also consider that a curse because there's like one in all of the entirety of my province, and it's back where I used to live. Their burgers are good, but honestly, the fries are what I love most. Surely there's a chippy near you, Warden Wolf. I remember one time when I was like, when I was in like grade 10, going into grade 10, I was 15. My family went to visit extended relatives in England. I can't remember where specifically. And at one point, mom was all like, we're going to an Indian foods restaurant. And me being autistic and shy about foods, like, I'm not interested in that. And she got really pissy at me. And I'm like, there's nothing there. There's not going to be anything there for me. And, you know, she got pissy. And then my sister and stepsister and I just went to a chippy down the road. It was honestly pretty solid. 10 out of 10 for a hole in the wall. All right, yeah, it's like, see, you're like 9 hours ahead of me. I can't remember what the difference between England and British Columbia is because I'm like -8. And I think okay, yeah, we have, not everything is 24 hours. But like most places have like one location or two that are 24 hours. If nothing else, there's always at least a 7-Eleven somewhere that is open, you know, most hours, even into the evening. No, I'm from British Columbia. I live on Vancouver Island. I did. I used to live in North Vancouver. Where I used to live was a few people, assume that and then tend to get a little bit odd about it when I'm like, I don't live with Bo. You know, he lives where he lives. I live where I live. Okay, seriously. Am I just not receiving colonists? How's everybody doing in terms of... Yeah, no problem. Let's see. But yeah, I used to live in North Vancouver, which is where my family moved to in 2005. That was basically like where I spent the rest of my teen years before like entering into college and most of my early adulthood. Not a bad city, extremely expensive to buy into, and I was like looking to move to the island alongside the bulk of my family. Not that I lived more than 30 minutes or less than 30 minutes from any of them. There are limits to how much I can tolerate family sometimes, so like I've been to 3 weddings in my family. And let's see. Actually, no, 4 weddings, including my sister. So at my sister's wedding, there was drama surrounding a next door neighbor who was sneaking into our house and stealing our liquor. Also, there was drama surrounding one of my cousins. Then one of my other cousins got married. There was drama surrounding that cousin I just mentioned again. And also there was drama surrounding my middle sister. Like she was going through it, and so she was like being a massive jerk about it. But also there was drama surrounding another cousin, surrounding my aunt being less than upfront about his biological dad. And that all came to light because my middle sister, who is a biologist, was roped in on like a genealogical experiment thing that he was involved in. Because like, okay, so my late cousin, because the cousin I'm talking about is dead now. He died this past Christmas. I'm not even kidding you. Healthy as a fit as a fiddle, had a silent heart attack. So here's your reminder that even if you're fit, do get looked after for your heart and checked out every so often. But he was like significantly older than the rest of us, in his 50s, and already retired by the time that he came back to the family. Because he'd been adopted out as an infant. So my aunt's all like, your dad is guy that I slept with before he went to Vietnam. And so he gets in touch with this dude. And this dude and him were both in some sort of genealogical experiment. And near as I understand the explanation on it, he was told that he's from like lineage A, and people who are from lineage A cannot be from or have like genetic relatives from lineage B. I don't know the basis for it. I think it was Y chromosomal. This guy was from lineage B. So my cousin starts asking my mom to ask questions of my sister. And my mom is not a scientist. She's not dumb. But my sister is in deep enough with biology as like a field that she studies and researches things that were like, it's really interesting, but I couldn't tell you what it's about. Because that's how niche the DNA is. But anyways, she explains some stuff. Then of course this gets involved in my aunts talking to her about it. And it's so funny. So it's the night before my cousin's wedding. they're at my cousin's, mother's place, my aunt's place. My aunt loves to host dinners, and she's like, talking with my sister. My other aunts are talking with my sister. They're all asking questions. And then my cousin comes and she's like, so what's going on? And her mother's just like, oh, cousin, this is a topic for the older generation. And your cousin. And she's all like, oh, okay, can my cousin walk me to my car? Wink. And my sister's like, yeah, sure. And of course, dishes, the juicy goss. My mom was not happy with my aunt for that. And my other aunt was not happy that this all spilled out because of interactions from my mom, and didn't talk to my mom for a year. The drama with the other cousin was that she was trying to claim her child that she just had as First Nations. He was not. Okay. Yeah. Along the way there, though, at one point, I think other cousins of mine found out about this. The way it was told to me was that they were like talking to like their mother. I've got 4 aunts and an uncle. Sorry, I have to count them sometimes because it feels like I have too many. And that's just on my mom's side. Anyways, so I have another aunt who has 2 daughters and a son. And the 2 daughters were like talking to her about like drama surrounding the cousin with the Okay, so my grandfather, of course, being, from an older generation, wanted the son. My grandparents are originally from England. And my grandfather came over to Canada, worked his way across Canada, landed in Eastern Canada, in Port in Eastern Canada, and worked his way across Canada until he wound up in British Columbia and was like, this is a place to put down roots. Goes back to England, gets a ticket for my grandmother and for his mother, and ended up working his way back across. And my grandmother was able to just get across, and they finally get married. And he wants a son, but he has like 3 daughters. And then he's like, we're gonna try again. Actually, no, 4 daughters. Sorry. No, wait, no. Sorry. I need to do my math. See. Okay. Has 4 daughters, including my mother. And then they have twins. Fraternal twins. One is my lone uncle, and one is my last aunt. And man, did he pay for his hubris on that one. Like, no spite there. But my youngest aunt is crazy. Like, everybody in the family has a little bit of the cray in it. I come by my autism via my maternal side. But my youngest aunt is just straight up borderline schizophrenic. And spent most of my early years on drugs in Toronto. So, drama there too. But yeah, my grandparents came here, had a bunch of kids. So I'm like 2nd gen Canadian. But I've got quite a bit of family over in England. And they too demonstrate aspects of the family curse, because one of them had a nonverbal child. Now, I'm a hint Irish, just a hint. through my father's line. My father's father's father was an Irishman. And he married a British woman, and she divorced him because he was a mean drunk. But he said that she went through clothes like a horse and wasted all his money. And I feel it was basically both, because she pilfered my grandfather's educational fund. Literally graduated from high school, was like, I'm going to become a doctor. Finds out his educational fund's just gone. And goes into the army. Oh, and also she remarried a PDF. So there's drama there. Aren't family trees fun? Okay, let's see. No, seriously, when am I supposed to get these bitches? I'm supposed to. Yeah, my genealogy is mostly British with just like the Harris hint of Irish. Yeah, more or less. But you'd never know with how much I love potatoes. Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. Okay, that's all moving. That's all moving. Okay. Okay, am I finally starting to get some people? I've been at it an hour and a half in this game. I'm Irish, English, Scottish, Italian, and Mongolian, Lamau. So somebody was like, oh shit, we're almost doing a whole like British Isles, menagerie here. But who really wants Welsh in their DNA? Or dare I say Cornish? And then decided to throw in Italian and Mongolian? Well, I'm not really sure. Is anybody really technically... I was gonna say, is there anybody really technically who calls themselves Cornish these days? I know like Welsh, Scottish, and Irish differentiate themselves as having like a language that is unique to them, but like, aren't the Cornish just like literally just like Proto-British? Can't say if I'm anything other than German. Not sure if what we in German even think about all that if you're not obviously non-German. As a North American, it tends to be a thing you just think about, like, because it is a nation formed by colonists. You tend to be a little bit hyper aware of your lineage leading up to, people coming to live in North America. Okay, now that we're getting some people around. Oh. See, nah, I kid you guys are all right when you're not trying to rule everyone or self-flagellating. I don't know why, but the Germans always seem to go from one extreme to the other. It's never a nice middle ground. I feel like part of that is because there's not really allowances for the middle ground, because like the people who are self-flagellating expect everybody to be self-flagellating, and this is true of basically every area in the West. And if you're not self-flagellating, you're assumed to be like, the worst. Where'd they go? Where are you going? Where are you going? What the fuck are you doing? Get over to my village. I'm gonna have to restart my map. Because apparently they can't get up to me. They just beelined across the map and left. I'm gonna have to restart my village. I'm honestly a little bit annoyed. It was coolly named too. Whatever. I can live with this. Okay, we're here for a fun time, not a hard time. Select aspiration. Describe. I could be Welsh. No, let's go with there we go. I'm not naming it Rotwald. Let's see. Basically the British Union Jack. Let's call it Buckinghamshire. You know, okay, sure. I'm always for a Fable reference. Honestly, agreed. Most of the old-timey names for things are just cooler. Like London versus Londinium. I personally would prefer Londinium. Thank you. Reminds me of this one this webcomic that I obsess about called Girl Genius, and has a novelization in it that basically does that thing the Caiaphas Cain books do, which is like have like somebody basically explain in a footnote a detail. And I fucking find that shit funny because they're comedically oriented. At one point, a character in the third novel is putting together like an alchemical concoction to protect you against mind control. And he starts spouting off like things. And in a footnote, the author Avatar, who's also a professor at Transylvania Polynostic U in universe, is all like, okay, so the Empire has standardized the chemical names of things, but however, we've decided to go with the original names because they're more romantic sounding. So they'll be like Vonahan's Elixir of Dread and shit like that. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Where am I?
Okay. Come out, bro. So true.
Nah. Where the fuck am I? I cannot even remember how to get to my territory. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's place it here. And for now, let's expand. Okay, this should actually get me people. I'm so mad that it took me like an hour and a half to spot the fucking issue. I kept looking for them going along on the map and they were like, how do I do thing? Tell me, Hort. Okay, so here's the Earth. why would it get them mad? Like, that's something I don't really get. It's like, bruh. If you're that bothered by somebody being aware of their ancestry, you got problems. All right, James Cook, who is hated despite the fact that historically speaking, when you really look at him, he was actually a fairly open-minded and worldly individual. And his death was because he was dealing with a savage people. I mean, okay, maybe that's a little bit harsh to say, but the dude basically visited port in some like native land place. And in that place, they apparently force feed you food that they've chewed for you. And then they hit a storm after leaving and came back to dry dock for a bit or whatever. And those people stole a fucking lifeboat from them. Like, okay, the Hawaiians had a shit time of it at the hands of the CIA, but I'm not. Yeah, it's like it was if I remember correctly, it was very much a massive case of like just like a deeply fucked up, like, shall we say, diplomatic incident. But like the dude was brilliant. Like he was an amazing like explorer, and he fucking wrote like a lot of diary entries. I remember my dad telling me how like his diary entries included a lot of like information on like how to use this to navigate the ocean blue. My crew seems to thrive just fine if I give them a varied diet. Like he would record the deaths of his crew, and the most amount of deaths he ever experienced in his seafaring life was when they stopped over in a Dutch colony, and a bunch of them got fucking malaria because the Dutch had a tendency to build like their own cities, which were typically like very canal based. But in a tropical region, you don't want long areas of like still water because it propagates mosquitoes. Yeah, see, already I got people. That should have been a red flag. Let's build. Yeah, like a major problem with like the way people see a lot of like native folk is that they assume immediately that they're stupid and incapable of making decisions for themselves just because they're uncontacted. And then just assume that like if somebody died at their hands, like Magellan, that it was something that they did. Even though if memory serves, Magellan was killed on sight. But yeah, like I want to say Cook was also one of the first to observe that contact between like native folk and his people tended to propagate diseases, if memory serves. Like he was one of the first people to make that observation in lieu of any sort of germ theory understanding. Notably toasty warm in here. Yeah, he's definitely one of those that man fucking did a lot in his time types. Reminds me of how fucking Julius Caesar in his like 30s or 40s basically bemoaned that he'll never be like fucking Alexander the Great. Meanwhile, a lot of people look at Julius Caesar and are like, damn, did he do a lot? I forget entirely what Scipio did. Actually, forget is probably a stretch. I don't remember that name. Okay, so oh, and if memory serves, Hannibal was was Carthaginian, betrayed by the Senate. Yeah, that stands to the typical. Yeah, I could see that being the case. It's like, oh yeah, sure. Let's totally trust the motherfuckers whose entire job it is to to remain in the Senate, and who will basically hoe you as soon as look at you. Man, I should pick up Drifters because like historical figures isekai'd into a warring world. That sounds neat. Okay. I suppose I... Oh, wait, no, you're all jammed in there. How many I got? May as well. And considering the fact that, like, Rome defeating Carthage is kind of how Rome got its start as an empire, like, they got their shift into being basically a pseudo-empire before they ever even had an emperor. But, like, when you look at how, like, the dude who was basically, you know, responsible for the, you know, greatest military victory that led to that being shafted by the Senate, I could see why fucking Caesar would be like, yeah, so let's do a whole triumvirate. In fact, it would probably be better if y'all just listened to me, because I've been cucking the rest of these schmucks. Not that Romans gave over much thought onto the subject of being cucked. They were fucking everybody's wives. Caesar just happened to be fucking everybody's wives and their moms. That was more of a Greek thing, if memory serves. Like, I'm sure it existed more, like, in some fashions in Rome, because Rome culturally was similar to Greece and also borrowed from Greece heavily, to the point that it became kind of popular to have a Greek slave as a tutor in your home. But, like, in general, that was always more of like a Greek sort of methodology of teaching. Not that the Romans didn't do it, but it does kind of fulfill the sort of joke that Greeks invented the orgy, the Romans added women. I need more wood. Make more wood. I mean, they did share a coastline. That's as good as being cousins in terms of human civilization. Like, I'm not saying that they were fishing in the same waters, but I am saying, yo, rods went into the same pools of water for the same fish. Fuck are you doing with your time? Okay, you're building the well. Okay, I can forgive you for that. Also, the reason why everything's going so slowly is because I forgot to have it at 3 times speed. I mean, yeah. The Spartans are an interesting case because, like, people will, like, one thing I don't like about, like, lefty Twitter is how, like, they try to be like, Lamau, the Spartans were more woman respecter than the Athenians. And it's like, I mean, is that really an accurate portrayal? Or is it not perhaps more accurate to say that they just didn't care about men less than they didn't care about women? Like, okay, between Athens and the Spartans, women basically still aren't really people. It's just that in Sparta, men weren't really people either. They entered the barracks at a young age, had to survive through various hazing rituals, one of which was just shy of starving you to the point where you're supposed to sneak out and steal food without being caught. They literally had a story about a child who snuck out and got caught on his way in. And while he was standing there basically being excoriated for it and, you know, pissing himself, he proceeded to fall over dead because the mink he'd stolen tore through his abdominal lining. Meanwhile, in Athens, like, yeah, okay, women were treated as basically like, you know, property of the men in their lives, but so what? You know, like, it's basically not all that much different. Yeah, that's another thing. Spartan society was contingent on the Helots to get by. I always find that, like, story where, like, Philip of Macedon, Iskander / Alexander the Great's, you know, father, went down there and was like, you know, if I invade you, you will lose. And people are like, and they responded, if. So bold. And it's like, okay, but they said that while they were behind walls hiding from him. He proceeded to free their slave economy and destroy their society. They ceased to be relevant in society from then on, whereas Athens is still a place in Greece right now. Take of that as you will. Now, the other reason I would even so much as feel a little bit less sympathy for the Athenians, though, is because they kind of brought the Peloponnesian Wars on themselves. You know, following up the conflicts with the Persians by basically being like, yeah, this war fund that we all pooled to, protect ourselves from further attacks by the Persians. Yeah, we could have just took it and built the Parthenon with this. Yay, more people. Okay. We got any spaces that need filling? Filling like a villain? Yeah, the Athenians didn't really care for, like, basically smeared fucking Aphrodite a lot in a lot of stories. I want to say, while Homer's The Odyssey is a story that dates back, like, in terms of oral history before Athens, you can kind of see that the Athenians had their fingers in its writing. Because in it, fucking Aphrodite tries her hand at war, gets slapped down, and is basically told, silly fucking fertility goddess, what are you doing? the Spartans weren't neat, but like the Greeks all had their issues. They all had slaves. They all practiced pederasty. Like that bit in 300 where he's all like, boy lovers, is literally just fucking writing from Hollywood. Reminds me of how it was like, what was it in Troy? The character of, was it Patroclus? Fucking Troy's cousin, or not Troy, fucking Achilles' cousin. Yeah. Those motherfuckers were cousins the same way Neptune and Uranus were in Sailor Moon. Let's be honest, people only care about slavery and history as applied to the West in like the last couple hundred years, and mostly America. Like you'll basically never hear about how, say, like the Spanish applied things or the Portuguese, which, look, absolutely the Spanish and Portuguese were competitors against, England and America, hence why the slave trade was cut down. There was a political motivation. Well, let's not act like there wasn't a good reason underneath that to shut down the slave trade as practiced by them. You can talk about chattel slavery all you like. At least the people survived that. Fucking, people tended not to survive being trafficked over into South America. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's expensive to police the literal Atlantic Ocean. Oh, fuck that movie. Oh, they were a warrior queen and they were trying to fight against slavery. Bullshit. Look, when I was in college, and I was at a liberal college, so this should say something. I was in a class called Slavery and Empire. The teacher led with the straight up statement, yeah, so slavery is not new. We've had it like since time immemorial. It's existed since humanity has had civilization. You're just going to have to accept that. So you're going to have to deal with some dark topics in this class. And one of our like books that we had to read talked about how like the various kingdoms in Africa were heavily involved. There was literally like a primary source document from a dude asking why nobody would buy his people anymore. He had so many good people to buy, and he wanted resources. This is after the slave trade was cut down. Like there were many conflicts in Africa where a king was basically like, I'll gladly sell you I'll gladly sell you 20 people for a gun today. More people. Remember, the French went and put down Dahomey as a country because they did still sell a slave. They still did slave trade after it was outlawed, and they still sold them to Brazil. Yeah, it's like, it's funny because like a lot of this stuff coincided with my, shall we say, hard pivot away from like leftyism. Like in my 20s, I was fairly like liberal. I still consider myself center left, but like I was like the type of person who would literally cry over the difficulties of the people around me. That's how brittle I was. I got over it. But like around the same time I was in the late periods of college is when like a lot of this like unnecessary levels of whiny liberalism started to pop up on the internet. And I remember somebody on Tumblr getting pissy because they were black and I wasn't listening to them because I was like, yeah, I've read primary source documents. They're like, oh my God, they're talking over us. And it's like, because you're just African American. You're just black. You're not an expert on Africa. You're as much an expert on Africa as I am on fucking England and Ireland. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. I understand why people, like emphasize their heritage. They want their origins to be known, and it's a part of them to a certain extent. Hell, if you're talking like Irish Americans or Italian Americans, they make a big fucking deal about it. But like, at the same time, don't fool yourself into thinking that you're necessarily more informed about, say, Italy or Ireland than somebody who actually fucking lives there. Like, culture is not something you've got put on a shelf or in a case on the wall behind protective glass. Culture is a thing that is shaped by the people who are actively living it right now. So like when somebody tries to tell you, oh, I'm, ex-American or what have you, it's like, okay, you're somebody of X heritage who grew up and lived in America. So you've got that heritage that has shaped somewhat your experiences, but you're still an American. More specifically, you're still a New Yorker or a Texan or a Minnesotan, because even the regional cultures are in many ways more relevant to their shared experience than a person, just being American. It's not the same per se as, say, for instance, a person from like France versus a person from like Germany, because those are wildly distinct places, but the regionality is something that matters when you're interacting with a person, because their sentiments are shaped by from whence they live. Eh. There is no British culture. Okay. Define that for me, because last I checked, there's the various prototypical cultures, and then there's modern day London and shit like that. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, Canada and America and Australia's legal codes are heavily influenced by the same sources. They'll either be, there's some mutt of the Roman legal code and the British Common Code. Okay. Do we got people who need to go to places? Oh, she's got berries. She's giving berries. It's giving berries. Why does this keep getting brought down to 1? "61 minutes from your home. Where do you live?" That's right there, you slow-walking motherfucker. I'm curious why, because it's always some dumb shit that basically, like, exposes why the term native just means nothing. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense within the context of the stupidity of the UN law. Not that that law, I'm sure, is applied reasonably, considering, what is it? Fucking, you know, fucking, like, Palestinians are probably considered native Israeli by the UN, whereas, you know, like, that's like a whole spicy topic I won't get into very far because this isn't really a political stream, but still. Hey, how about you build my granary before you build more houses, bitch? Is now a good time to expand? Probably. Ooh, more people. Nah, it's okay. It's okay. It's not your fault. I kind of slip into it. I'm bad about like directing conversation since I kind of just entertained the chat. That's on me. I already got signs. Yeah. But I mean, understandable that it got here considering we were talking like how certain things influence stuff going into the modern era and Captain Cook and stuff like that. Honestly, you can probably guess because I like fantasy and other medieval aesthetic stuff. Something about the medieval era is just aesthetically pleasing. Also, I have a tendency to have a fondness for royal iconography. Yeah. Though I can't really say I'm especially well read on medieval stuff. I did mention I tend to like fantasy, you know, but still like royal iconography, royal fucking succession and stuff like that. I find that stuff wildly interesting. Like, who was that one British king who became king after he simply removed his two nephews from the public eye? Emphasis on removed. And nobody really questioned it. I want to say nobody really questioned it because he didn't really last very long, but I mean, he had his motivations. Yeah. They kind of just disappeared into the Tower of London. And then, like, what was it, like a few decades ago, the archaeologists or whatever were like, we found this box with two child-sized skeletons inside. Like Lamau, I wonder. Okay, everybody's about 50% happy. Yeah, and to just a slight extent, I also find like the genealogy of this stuff kind of fascinating. Like, whenever people try to claim Cleopatra as black, getting back into the politics side of things, I'm always like, are you really sure you want to claim her? Like, she was cool, but her entire family is a wreath. Like, people go on about like the Habsburg chin and all that, but it's like, okay, but their incest is like tied to like a couple of generations. And yeah, it was basically a wreath. But if you look at Cleopatra's line, of which it is documented, you will find that it is basically like right at the beginning, 2 people outside the family, and then the rest's like fucking nephew, niece to uncle, aunt marriages mostly, but also a bunch of like sibling marriages. I mean, Cleopatra was almost married to her brother, and he had like a fucking gloved foot and like lame legs. Yeah, she was Macedonian. Like, she was Macedonian. She was from Ptolemy, who was one of like Alexander the Great's, you know, like you mentioned, she was like his cousin, and Ptolemaeus was like his like what, best friend or something like that. But it's like, yeah, Cleopatra, it's impressive that she was as intelligent as she was, because that's kind of the thing. It's like you take a hard look at her and you're like, oh, she was just kind of smart relative to a lot of women at the time. Also, Alexander the Great is hilarious because his story reads like a Gary stew. And yet it's like a bunch of shit that's like, okay, but that actually definitely happened. So how much of it didn't versus how much of it did? Like him basically being like, oh, you won't submit to conquest. Okay, I understand. Oh, you're being rude about it. We're gonna build a nice little an isthmus to your fucking island. Have fun with that. You know, fucking the story of how he got fucking Bucephalus is hilarious because it reads like a horse girl movie. You know what I mean? Like the rough around the edges, troublesome girl is sent to live with her like aunt or uncle in the countryside. And they got a horse there that's untamable, literally untamable. It's called the Rider Destroyer 5000. And she just walks up to it and it's like, you're not so bad, pat, pat, pat. That is literally him and Bucephalus. Bucephalus was basically that untamable horse that nobody was able to tame. And fucking Philip and Macedon's are like, yo, horse raiser. My son needs a horse. And he's like, okay, but don't go into this pen. There's this horse here that kills its riders. Now fucking Iskander, Alexander the Great, is a young boy at the time, hops the fence and walks over to it. Everybody's promptly shitting themselves because that's the heir of the empire. And he's just like, pat, pat, gets on its back, immediately tame. Yeah. Okay, that's all set up. How did I get to 10 splendor without ever so much as touching anything? So everybody's 60%. Let's be his unemployment. Yeah, honestly, Alexander the Great's like a wild one because he spends like 12 years conquering his way to the east and only stops because his men were like, we want to go home. And also it was monsoon season in India. And then he kind of just promptly dies. And nobody's really sure from what, whether it was assassination or some even suggest a broken heart. His bestie had died. Allegedly. Okay, what destination is blocked, you bitch? It's the beach. Shut up. Right. All right. That's how. Okay, well, now that that's done. Okay, there we go. Should have bought the edict. Okay, what can I sell? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go with planks for a bit. And planks it is. Yeah, already going way better than before. What are you doing here? Needs coins, needs coin. Oh, there's the tradesman. What have I got to trade to either of them other than boards? I don't got any of those. I don't got fish. I need to get into fishing. Over the hills and far away for 10 long years, it's really gay. Give me money. Give me money. Yeah, boy. Okay. That is partially a real song. There's this band called Nightwish. They kind of do symphonic metal, is I think the term for them. Very dramatic, very like vocal oriented. It's kind of my thing. Yeah. So the song is Over the Hills, I think is its name. But I can never remember fucking lyrics to save my life. So, oftentimes I will like fill in the lyrics with something ridiculous and kind of crass. Lamau? I mean, I imagine it was. I mean, the kaleidoscope says that it could be him. Select a mandate. I'm not levying my my villagers just yet. I hate levying my villagers. It's a real desperate act. Why, yes, I'll take 100 coin. Man, I need to get up to date on things. I started watching fucking Apothecary Diaries again last night because it's one of my comfort series, which is kind of hilarious because the content's dark. It's literally about like the struggles of life in like pseudo-imperial China and how like the weight of like your like the way you live your life and the requirements of how you live it, you know, influences you. You know, with like a heavy parallel between, you know, the brothel and the rear palace. I'm gonna cheat. Oh, are my people starving? Oh. I kind of can't wait for Krishan AI to finally get like lore book functionality. They've been like, hey, so we've heard that you want lore book functionality. And the thing is, I've been seeing people doing a bunch of like kind of more like RPG-ish bots, and I'm like, no, don't do that. There's basically nobody to fulfill that. Yeah, like, oh. Like, or there's basically like no lore book to work that. Yeah, that's where I'm expanding next. Okay, time to tax the people. Where are you? Trade routes, trade routes, trade routes, trade routes, trade routes, trade routes. Sure thing. Okay, well. upkeep of production buildings is, yeah, okay. Just did that, bitches. Honestly, when it comes to chatbots, I do find the more RPG-ish ones a little bit more fun. I don't know. I can be mad uncreative when you just give me a bot that's all like, this bot is this character with this backstory. I'm like, where am I supposed to take this from here? Especially when certain bots with certain models will act frustratingly obtuse. Oh shit, that's producing a lot of wheat. Nobody cares. Why, I'd love to serve you rustic food. I would love to serve you rustic food. But your bitch asses need to get those things built. Go on now. Go on. That's right, you hoe. Get it going. That's right. Conveniently enough, I've got bread on the possible make. Everybody's happy because bread at the bread store. Bread. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Hmm. This has been a pretty good stream so far, but I must look for somebody to raid because I need to. Yeah, let's go with Razorwind VT. Raid Razorwind VT. Anyways, thanks for tuning in for my stream. Hope y'all are having a good evening. I hope you will continue to have a good evening. I will be back tomorrow with, pretty sure it's going to be the Elden Ring team. If it's not, it'll probably be something else. But either way, thank you for tuning in. I have been Paladin Ashe, and I am signing off. Enjoy Razorwind.